I'm privileged, and I'm really excited. These are exciting times, and you know, I know the protocol here is to bring Dr. Douglas, but I cannot stand this evening without thanking some people, because everybody knows when you travel on a journey, you don't make that journey alone. And God has a way of putting people in your place, putting people on that same path with you that helps you along the way. My father told me years ago, he said, whenever somebody does something good for you, the least you could do is say thank you. First person I want to thank outside of God is my wife, Elaine Lilly. And I want her to stand. I want to say this. You know, Elaine has been a blessing to this organization. Behind the scenes, out front, but mostly behind the scenes. Elaine, she's a very resourceful person, and she's very gifted and talented. Elaine is the kind of person, when most people are thinking about something, she's working it out. And I want to thank her for the support she's given me and this organization, because she saved us some money too. She saved us some money. And I want to thank the members of the executive committee that have worked with me. Many of you know, I wasn't a part of the inner city circle when I came to the NAACP. Nobody really knew me but the late Pastor Jefferson, because our church is fellowshipped. But Brother Gentry and Ms. Galloway and all the other members, you know, they trusted me and they supported me. And you know, I thank God for that. I want you all to know I'm grateful to you. And the people on this stage, I can't say thank you enough. You know, it's good to see people willing to come to the NAACP. Because Sister Cooper, you remember when I came, everybody wasn't just standing up ready to come to the NAACP. But now God has brought us a long ways. And, you know, one of the things I did not want to do is do any hurt, but I wanted to help. Wanted to get this organization in a position where we can move forward. Then I want to thank Miss Yolanda Smith. And the third person will be Dr. Douglas, the person I'm going to present. You know, one thing I was criticized for is my support for Yolanda. But I'll let people know in a minute when it comes to her and Dr. Douglas, there's no question about my support for them. Because I remember during some days, during the early days, I remember nobody knew what we were really going through other than maybe Dr. Jefferson and Reverend Lawson. You know, we had some tough times. We had some tough times. And, you know, if you're going to take on a hard challenge, you'd be wise to have someone who understands and has been there and knows the organization. So I want to thank Miss Yolanda Smith because she has been a great supporter. And, you know, I see Judge Bernie back there. You know, I want to thank her for all the kind words and so many people on the executive committee. But I want to kind of put this, and I want to bring Dr. Douglas, but I want to put a biblical perspective on it so that we can kind of really appreciate what's happening here. Ecclesiastes 3:1, very simple, very familiar passage scripture, Brother Claude, says to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens. Everything has its proper place. And when things are in their place, it's proper, it's appropriate, it's prosperous, and it's good. My time has come and gone. And the time is right now for new leadership. Dr. Douglas, it's your time now. It's your season. And I want everyone to stand and honor the new leader of the NAACP Houston Branch, the one that God has ordained, and it saw fit to place in this seat, Dr. James Matthew Douglas.
Good evening. For those of you who wonder why Yolanda ran up here just before I started to speak, she turned on the tape. Because she asked me last week, she said, I want a copy of your speech. so that we can put it online. I said, Yolanda, I don't write speeches. I said, but I tell you what you can do. You can tape it, and we can have it transcribed. You know, it's really funny. I look at Carole. Carole, when I became president of Texas University, was my top executive. And one day he came in my office and he said, and he had been executive assistant to my predecessor. And he said, you know, I like working for you. He said, because with Dr. Harden, I was always writing speeches. He said, I don't have to write speeches anymore. You know, Reverend Lawson, I want to confess to you and God, I lied. I lied to Yolanda, and I lied to a number of my friends. Because I told them this program would be over in an hour. I'm going to try to make my comments short. But as Reverend Lilly said, you know, I'm like a turtle on the French post. I know I didn't get here by myself. And so the first thing I want to do is recognize some of the people who helped me. First, my wife, Tanya Douglas. You know, I thank her because she had to change her personality when she married me. When we first got married, she said, "You too busy." And I said, "But that's me." Now she doesn't complain about all the time I'm gone from home and all the things that I do, and I want to thank her for that. I have 4 children. First, my oldest daughter, Delicia Smith. Will you stand, Delicia? My son, who's in the back, I call him Deuce, but his name is James Matthew Douglas II. All right. Deuce. And I have a daughter, Erica, who is a pharmacist in San Antonio, and she could not be here with us today. You know, I grew up in a large family, 8 brothers and sisters. One of my brothers has gone on, and I know his spirit is with us today. His name was Aubrey. I have a sister who's gone on, and her spirit is with us today. Her name is Ice. But I'd like to introduce my other brothers and sisters who are here today. One of the things about growing up in a big family is you always know how to share. No, bro. Because I never owned anything growing up. We owned everything. So first is my brother Ellis. You understand? My brother Michael. My sister Emma. My sister Mary. My brother Larry. And my brother Keith. I think he had to go to a service of him. He's a minister. I have 2 ministers in the family, Larry and Keith. You all can sit down. I want to thank Reverend Lilly. Reverend Lilly talked somewhat about the state of the NAACP when he took over. Most people outside the organization did not know all the difficulties we were going through when he stepped up. And if I had to put a title to it, I would title it Attempted Destruction from Within. And I'll leave it at that. Now, Congressman Green, he just left, but look, I came back to Houston in 1981, and I got involved in the NAACP, and I swear it did not exist. But when Congressman Green took over, with the assistance of Howard Jefferson and Reverend Lawson and Secretary Page, we turned the corner and became a real organization, and I would like to thank those four for putting us on the path to becoming the NAACP that we are. You know, you run into all kind of people in the world, and I want to recognize three of my closest friends. One, you heard his daughter, she's not here. I mean, he's not here, but George Foreman. The most important thing about George is when he found out that I was involved with the NAACP, he came to me one day and he said, I want to do something for the NAACP. He said, because I made a lot of money, and I know without the NAACP, I would not be making the kind of money that I'm giving. So he said, are you going to the national convention? And I said, yes. He said, will you take this check and present it to them? I just tell you it was a six-figure check. Yolanda can tell you that every year, George is one of the sponsors of the Freedom Fund dinner. So we can always count on him, because often I don't even have to ask him for it. He'll just come in and say, hey, the Freedom Fund coming up, here's the check. So I want to thank George. Two other dear friends. One I met in the airport. I was in Austin right after I came back to Houston, and I was sitting in the airport, and I met this gentleman. He found out I was dean of law school. He was a graduate of law school. And we started talking, and I said, where are you from? He said, I'm from Amarillo. I said, God, I didn't know there were any black lawyers in Amarillo. He says, one. I want to introduce the former Judge Morris Overstreet. The other is a guy that thinks he can, now that he's gotten old and can't play basketball anymore, he thinks he's a great golfer. He's better than me, but he's not great. And that's Calvin Murphy. I know you all have said, God, he forgot somebody. The answer is no. I wanted to save him for last. I had to take a writing exam in graduate school. And one of the questions was, write an essay about your role models. And so I wrote an essay about 3 individuals who were my role models. Jesus, my father, and Martin Luther King, in that order. Okay. My father was a role model because one of the things I knew is he always wanted to go to college, but didn't have the opportunity to do so. But he made a commitment that all of his children were going to do so. My father put 9 of us through college. 5 of us were in school at the same time. People thought I was rich because I went to school and I didn't work. But my father made it happen, and I want to thank him for that part of it. The other was church. You know, we could go out when I was in high school. You could do anything you wanted to do. As long as Sunday morning you were up and ready to go to church. And I want to thank my father for that. The other was the Boy Scouts. Now, I know the Boy Scouts, y'all, you know, I'm on the board and we have some conflicts. But I have to talk about the role they played in my life. I think about the Boy Scout law, and just listen to the law. It says a scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. What kind of world would we have today if everyone lived with that motto? I also want to thank my father because he got me involved with the NAACP. He was a role model growing up. My father was a member of the executive committee of the Houston Branch. In fact, he was treasurer under Reverend C. Anderson Davis when he was president of the branch, executive director of the branch. I don't know what Reverend Davis was. He ran NAACP. So that I want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me and my brothers and sisters and my mother who has gone on to be with God. Martin Luther King was important to me because I like the fact that he believed in being civilly disobedient, but in doing it in a nonviolent way. He taught me that it was possible to be forceful and kind at the same time. For that, I thank Martin Luther King. And lastly, I thank Jesus, because he taught me how to live. But most importantly, he taught me how to love. And that's one of the most important aspects of human life, is to learn to love other human beings. I want to thank my mother because she gave me my name, James Matthew Douglas. James, which is reflective of the way I am, because he wrote, faith without works is dead. Faith without works is dead. And I say that because your incoming president of the NAACP believes that works is very, very important. And Matthew wrote the genealogy of Jesus. So you can see, I don't know, I never asked my mother, why'd you name me James Matthew, but she made me two great men who played an important life in Christianity. I'm going to talk a little about me, and then I'm going to talk about the NAACP, because I think when you work with people, the better they understand you, the more effective you can be. And so part of this is for the audience, but it's mostly for the executive committee. I have a godson in Chicago. He teaches law, and he called me one day and he said, we're having a problem at the law school. And he recounted the problem for me. And he said, next week, the faculty has called a meeting and we're going to confront the dean. What would you do? My response was, you don't want to know what I would do. He said, I don't want to know what you would do. I said, no, you don't want to know what I would do. He said, why? I said, because you can't do what I would do. He said, I guess you're going to tell me why I can't do what you would do. I said, yeah. I said, let me ask you this. I believe the most important thing to you is keeping your job. He said, yes. I said, that's why you can't do what I would do. Because keeping my job has never been important. I said to Sam, I have never taken a job to have a job. I've only taken a job to do a job, and if I can't do the job, I don't want the job. You know, I got a lot of flack, and I want to thank the mayor for coming and making the comments she made, but I got a lot of flack for standing up and supporting Hero. And I did it not because it was popular, but because I believed it was the right thing to do. Remember, I told you I believe in love. And if you really believe in love, that makes you do things that some people will not do. Now, often as a general counsel, former general counsel, at first vice president of the NAACP, people would come up to me and they would ask me one of two questions. The first one is the NAACP necessary? And the second one is, what is the NAACP doing?
Yeah, that's right.
Now to the first, Congressman Green, and he's gone, but this is one of his statements. Even a blind man can see that the NAACP is necessary today. All you have to do is look at what's happening to African American, especially African American men. Crime. African American men are incarcerated at over 6 times the rate of white men. African Americans are given longer federal sentences than whites, even for the same crime. Racial profiling. We don't have to talk about racial profiling. Everybody here understands that, yes, racial profiling is alive. You know, I had the fortune of once again going on a grand jury. So right now, as of last week, I'm foreman of a grand jury. And one of the things that I asked a policeman once, because 90% of drug arrests are made on traffic stops. And I asked the policeman once that if you had to follow a person in an automobile, how long would you follow them, would you have to follow them before they did something wrong? He said, maybe a mile or 2. What that says is that the policeman, and 90% of everything that comes to the grand jury is based on a traffic stop. The policeman can stop anybody they want to. Whether they say you change lanes without giving a signal, and everybody out there know they change lanes without giving a signal. All right? Whether you're driving erratic and, you know, you could be on your cell phone and just wiggle a little. But we all do something that if the police wanted to stop us, they could. So we know that racial profiling is alive and well. Today, the killing of black men by law enforcement officials, unarmed black men. If you read the news, if you listen to the news, even if you talk to anybody, you know that that's a serious, serious, serious problem. But one of the most important problems, which doesn't get it very much conversation, is that our criminal justice system has destroyed the African American family. How many of us know 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old male or female today who got arrested for smoking a joint? A joint that's now legal in a number of states in this union. Not legal in Harris County, because we still crazy in Harris County. They get arrested. They're in jail. They can't afford bond. Assistant DA says to them, you don't even have to worry about making bond. All you have to do is plead guilty and you can go home tomorrow. So they plead guilty and they go home. Not knowing that that guilty plea is going to be with them for the rest of their lives. What does that guilty plea mean? It means if they want to go to college, thanks to President Clinton, they can't get any financial aid to do so. If they want to get a job, nobody wants to hire, even though we say the whole purpose of our penal system is to rehabilitate, even those who go to prison. You can't get a job once you get out or once you have a felony. They even tell them, hey, we'll give you deferred adjudication. And if you stay clean for 5 years, we'll wipe it off your record. You know what happens today? Employers don't just ask whether you've ever been convicted of a crime. They also ask whether you've ever had deferred adjudication. So if you can't go to college, and you can't get a job, what do you do? And we talk about recidivism. We create recidivism with a lot of our antiquated laws. So you can't go to college, you can't get a job. If you can't go to college and can't get a job, you can't afford a family. So we ask, how did the African American family get destroyed? Believe me, once we change these drug laws, you're going to see a big difference, because every African American male that smoked a joint, every African American that smoked a joint is not irresponsible. And the crazy thing about it is, Clinton